If instead of rebooting movies, retelling them from a different point of view became popular, which movie would you like retold? The Game starring Michael Douglas. I want to see it from Consumer Recreation Services point of view. I want to see how they manage all the actors and situations to make sure everything goes the way they want it. Edit, I want to thank everyone for agreeing this movie is great, underrated, and the upvotes. Thank you to /u/blogzilly for the silver. People brought up Cabin in the Woods. My issue with Cabin in the Woods is those people didn't know beforehand what might or was going to happen. Michael Douglas' character knew about the organization and how Sean Penn's character talked about the experience. Also, it's in the woods. The Game was done in San Francisco, so if this movie was done, you can show different POVs of San Francisco like the Golden Gate Bridge and different areas of San Fran these actors live in. The Truman Show. Truman grew up in front of the cameras in a fictional town. Michael Douglas' character does neither.
More importantly, I want to see the cool-ass contingency plans they had in place, but he goes left instead of right, so they have to go with plan F instead of A, B, C, D, or E.
I want to see the contingencies and the extras that don't get used. Like 10 minutes centered on Bob, who is dressed like a cop, but then ordered to switch because of some action of the player, so he changes into a clown, then asked to change again into a waiter's, then just a rich guy in a suit. All the while in the control room that looks like NASA's moon mission, chaos ensues and calm orders are addressed to Bob. Final Destination from Death's perspective. I imagine it would just be skeleton hands setting up deadly Rube Goldberg machine with some classical music in the back. Rube Goldberg machine considering their death machines. I'll allow it. Groundhog Day, a day in the life of Ned Ryerson. Bing. Edit to add, my first silver. Thank you. I'ma buy some insurance from Ned. Smile. Except we don't see the repeat. We only see the Ned Ryerson from the timeline in which Phil hugs him and makes him uncomfortable, and the rest of the film is Ned trying to figure out his sexuality. Mean Girls told by the girl who doesn't even go there. This. Or Glen Coco. Either way, I'd watch. Glen Coco is iconic. Forrest Gump told from Lieutenant Dan's perspective. Could be really good, focusing on his training, then getting sent to Vietnam and being in charge of an idiot. Then the struggles of a soldier returning from war and the way the VA treated him. Just for him to reunite with the idiot soldier who saved his life. Princess. And the Frog. We got Maleficent out of Sleeping Beauty, so where the fuck is Dr. Facilier's backstory? He had a debt with literal demons and nobody seems to give a shit. This is such an underrated Disney movie, it gets so easily forgotten. It's one of my favorite Disney princess movies, right next to Tangled and Brave and Mulan. I used to hate princess movies. Even as a little girl. When Patf came out when I was a teen, I loved it and it made me feel little again. She's my favorite princess and it sucks that it doesn't get as much hype just because it's newer. I think I need Yzma's story, too. God, can you imagine that? She would have advised generations of emperors, likely watched the whole empire grow into what it is. Then, one day, the current emperor dies and suddenly there's a baby as ruler. He grows up spoiled. Spends frivolously on himself. Ignores the problems of the people. And has a personality so unpredictable, he executes commoners for nothing. Keep in mind the old man who threw off his groove only survived because he happened to get tangled up in a tapestry. Yzma was watching the empire she loved, arguably the one that she built, go down a path of ruin because of the whims of a spoiled narcissistic child. Her actions seem pretty reasonable in that light. Go down a path of ruin because of the whims of a spoiled narcissistic child. To be fair, it's strongly hinted in the movie that Yzma is exactly why Kuzco turned out like that. She at one point mentioned that she's the one who raised him, and Kronk makes a joke about how you'd think he would have turned out better. This is supported by Yzma being just as selfish as Kuzco once she becomes emperor, as well as that bit at the beginning where she turns away a peasant who was asking for food. It is no concern of mine whether your family has, what was it again? Food. Ha! You should have thought about that before you became peasants. Sir David Attenborough's Jaws. How about Cloverfield from the view of a professional camera crew? This question instantly made me think of Cloverfield, but not for that reason. I remember when it came out people noticed that there's someone else with a camera in the bridge scene and it became a popular idea that they could do a sequel from that group's perspective. This is what makes Cobra Kai so damn good. Was gonna say this. When Johnny's relating his version of things, it all makes perfect sense. I would think aliens from Newt's perspective would be pretty substantial. How a girl survived all that and the loss of her family alone on a foreign planet. Edit, and to clarify, as I wasn't expecting this to blow up lol, thank you all, it would be essentially the story of Newt living on Hadley's Hope, some background with her and her family, to the point her parents get face-hugged, how the aliens slaughtered the colony, how Newt survived in the air ducts, and what she lived through, while ending with Ripley finding her and bringing her back to the Marine Operations Base. It would be set as a claustrophobic horror movie. With a good script this movie could easily do $300 mil emo. There's a comic from Dark Horse that has done this. It's 2 issues long. Early 90s. Actually good. Aliens, Newt's Tale. Edit, another reader pointed out a mistake in the title. Thanks for the upvotes, people. Well, this isn't my idea or suggestion because Orson Scott Card already did it, but he wrote Ender's Game a second time from Bean's point of view and called the story Ender's Shadow. Came looking for this comment. Ender's Shadow offers so much detail in a story you thought was already complete. Fantastic work by Orson Scott Card, along with the rest of the Ender's Saga novels. Ho Ender, ho Bean. Robin Hood from the Sheriff of Nottingham's perspective. It'd be great to watch a movie about a medieval cop trying to catch a highwayman. Apparently, the Russell Crowe Robin Hood movie was supposed to be this. However, Ridley Scott rewrote the script. And he honestly believes he's taxing because the realm needs more protection and you can't without paying the soldiers. But this guy keeps stealing the tax revenue and robbing the largest tax bracket. Tom Riddle, becoming Lord Voldemort. I just think it would be interesting to watch his journey and his story. Although, maybe not all that interest, as it seems like he took a 30-year break to do whatever. There was a 17-year break in the Fellowship of the Ring storyline, where Gandalf goes to research the ring, which was glossed over entirely. Even without relatively unaging characters, there's no reason not to just have a scene which starts with a 30 years later. Caption. There was a 17-year break in the Fellowship of the Ring storyline, where Gandalf goes to research the ring, which was glossed over entirely. Yeah, I remember the movie not making this very clear. It wasn't until I watched the movies with my wife, who is quite possibly the biggest LOTR fan that has ever existed, that I understood just how many time skips and crunches there were. That made the story flow so much better. The books also have Merry, Pippin and Sam as conspirators, who knew what Frodo was planning to do ahead of time, and helped him make the gradual move, including buying a house in Crick Hollow. Merry is shown as actually being quite smart, and figured out what Frodo was doing over the time he was planning. Whereas in the movie, they bump into Merry and Pippin stealing mushrooms, then make a mad dash for Bree instead. Yeah, the books remind me more of a pleasant time in a canoe, going from one end of a massive lake to the other. The movies are like an epic rafting ride through rapids and stuff. Both are great, but achieve very different things. Groundhog Day, from everybody else's perspective on the last day/repeat. Just a movie about a small town and some weather guy who shows up at random points in people's day to make their lives better, for no apparent reason. Not a movie, but I would definitely watch Breaking Bad, but from the perspective of Gus Fring. That dude has a crazy story to tell. I like that we get a little of that in Better Call Saul. Wait, I've got it. Breaking Bad, but from the perspective of the lawyer. You're a goddamn genius. I'd watch that. Get on it, Vince Gilligan. E.T., from his point of view. The fuck this kid poking me for? Avatar: The Last Airbender from the point of view of anyone but M. Night Shyamalan. I would love to see Azula's story. The series did a good job with her character, but expanding on it would be great. That, or give us a story of Iroh's life. Let us see him go from generic Fire Nation prince to the wise, tea-loving, pie show player who guided his nephew. And end with his journey to the spirit world. It would be the most wholesome show. There was no Avatar movie in Ba Sing Se. I hope Netflix doesn't fuck this up like that dude. 500 Days of Summer would be really interesting to see Summer's perspective on everything. Passengers, told like this. This was a quality watch. Good suggestion. Aladdin, from Jafar's perspective. A college theater group did a very R-rated version that is absolutely hilarious, which can be found on YouTube under Twisted, the story of a Grand Vizier. What I would really enjoy is a late 80s/early 90s hand-animated Aladdin where Jafar is the defender of the Sultan's realm against some nefarious interloper who is bent on stealing the prince's heart and worming his way into the royal family. And he has a genie. Fuck you Jafar. I don't like musicals and still this one was so good I keep bringing it up. Such a well done piece. Funny, dark and yet somewhat touching. You should watch The Guy Who Didn't Like Musicals. It's all your fault Jafar. I want to be a cat. What? Fuck you. It's one of their best musicals. Dylan is a delight as Jafar and everyone should do themselves the pleasure of watching it and then fall into the rabbit hole of watching their other works. That theater group is called Star Kid, and they are awesome. Edit, totally awesome. I'm going through this entire thread linking it to as many relevant comments as I can. It's so goddamn funny, and so worth the 2 hours. Also, fun fact, that theater group is the same one who did the Harry Potter musical. Edit, for those of you who enjoyed Twisted, my other favorite one by Star Kid is The Trail to Oregon. It's about a family going through the Oregon Trail, just like the game. It's brilliant, and if you ever played the game as a kid, you'll appreciate it. No one remembers Ahmed. All hail Ahmed the Tiger Fucker. Tiger Fucker, Tiger Fucker, Tiger Fucker. A Lion King prequel from Scar's perspective. Show what really happened before the Mufasa era and see how Mufasa cheated Scar out of the throne. Scar's real name is Taka, which literally means garbage. Fucked up childhood. Scar, why can't you be more like your brother Mufasa? He's already started his own pride and is running for city council. All you do is sit around and hang out with those vile hyenas all day. You're a disappointment to this family. Shut up Greg, you're not even my real dad, uck. You should check out The Lion Guard. It's a kid's cartoon that is canon, and tells the backstory of Scar, how he got his scar, and why he was so bad. Scar's story isn't the focus, but it is important and I like how they made it all match to the OG Lion King trilogy. Can you just, tell us? I don't think I have the mental energy for that series. I don't know about Lion Guard, but there was a comic, A Tale of Two Brothers is the name, a while back about Scar and Mufasa as kids. Scar is jealous of Mufasa, so tries to get a buffalo to gore Mufasa, but he gets gored instead. When he never fully heals, his dad, a hottie, starts calling him Scar and it sticks. Air Bud, but told from the POV of the kid who was pulled out of a basketball game to be replaced by a dog. There's nowhere in the rule book it says you can pull me out so a dog can play, either. I want to see a new version where the team they face in the championship brings in a tiger and forces the Dopey Rules Committee to accept that, yes, there is an implicit understanding that the players must be human. Or, they just stick to precedent and the tiger destroys everything and everyone. Whatever. I like this idea. Teams continue to one-up each other with lethal animals until the sport of basketball morphs into a gladiatorial death match for trained killer beasts. Boom, real-life Pokemon is born. It only caused him to train harder and harder. Bury himself into sports to prove others wrong. He ended up finding football and the rest is history, until, the ghosts of his past came back to haunt him. The true Michael Vick story. Damn, that took a sharp left turn. Yeah, I was like, oh yes, the reveal is that the kid gets benched again in the sequel even though he changed sports, but no. I'd love to see Air Bud from the POV of the coach who puts the dog in. And I'd love to see that team lose and the coach having to explain to parents why he thought putting a dog in would be a good idea. I am weirdly qualified to answer this given the fact that I'm writing a quantitative analysis on the entire Air Bud plus Air Buddies series. Basically, in the Air Bud movie, no one was specifically pulled from the team or the game to make room for Buddy. Rather, we see through the movie that one of the kids who got taken out of the team because of his father, thus triggering the need for Buddy to play rather than simply being the halftime show/mascot. The kid being taken out of the team by his dad was actually a really interesting plot point because his dad was super arrogant and overbearing and clearly forced a lot onto his son. A story from the kid's point of view would likely end up being very depressing because of this. Air Bud surprisingly had a few reoccurring themes of abuse which added a bit of a dark depth to it which really set it aside from the other Air Bud movies. I could go on about this forever. I'm sorry, you're writing a what? They're clearly writing their doctoral thesis on cinematic representations of cross-species athletic competition as a reflection of postmodern sociological phenomena at a meta-species ontological level. This guy doctorates. The ultimate low point in any child's life. I would watch this. Horror movies from the monster/ghost POV. Basically Beetlejuice. I want to see a superhero movie from the perspective of an insurance adjuster. It could be a comedy, but just like every day he wakes up and he's enjoying his morning coffee and a bowl of oatmeal, then he flips open the morning paper and sees Iron Man went full Michael Bay again or the Avengers were back in town. Long sigh, stands up, chair squeaks on floor, clicks pen, straps iPad to hip, tightens camera strap, he's the real superhero. There was a show called Powerless that was pretty similar to that concept, about an agency that deal with the aftermath of the collateral damage from superhero/villain fights. It wasn't the best show, but I thought it was a cool idea. Unfortunately, it was cancelled after a season. I still think it's an interesting POV and I'd like to see someone else take a shot at it. I loved this aspect of The Boys that touched on this aspect of the fucking soups. There was an entire comic book series called Damage Control, hinted at in the Spider-Man movie with Michael Keaton, that covered something along these lines. The guys from DC were the people who put the cities back together after a superhero fracas. After the explosions and the villains are vanquished, these guys show up and rebuild it like new. Or like old. It was written like a sitcom just in comic book form. Somebody called Disney, I think I got a new show for them. An alien invasion movie told strictly from the aliens' perspective, complete with their confusion about why the humans are responding the way they are. It would make sense to us but would take the narrative form of a mystery for them. It could be a clever way to illustrate cultural misunderstanding. An example could be, let's show them we are friendly by revealing all our weapons, to demonstrate we aren't hiding anything, which the humans would take as a threat. I always liked that about the Borg on Star Trek. They genuinely thought they were helping the people they were conquering. A villain is scarier when it thinks it's doing the right thing. That's how the Minbari War starts on Babylon 5. The Minbari, a race of aliens, approach the human fleet with all of their weapons raised and engaged so the humans preemptively fire on them. Turns out to the Minbari raising all your weapons is a show of respect. Like, we think you are a worthy enough opponent that we should come prepared. To not raise your weapons would be a huge sign of disrespect. With all of their weapons raised and engaged, gun ports open but weapons not powered on or aimed, actually. Not that the humans could tell that the weapons weren't active since the Minbari's sensors doing a casual scan of the human ships overloaded the humans' own sensors, which was misconstrued as intentional jamming and a prelude to attack. The horror/comedy version of this is Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. If you haven't seen it, it's exactly what you're describing, but two hillbillies instead of aliens and campers instead of Earth's Air Force. Tucker, what am I supposed to say, Dale? Oh hidey-ho officer. We've had a doozy of a day. There we were minding our own business, just doing chores around the house when kids started killing themselves all over my property. Dale, yeah, just like that. Tucker, they're never gonna believe that. Dale, but that's exactly what happened. He chucked himself into the wood chipper. I love when he asks, "Are you okay?" to the college kid that dove into the chipper. They must have been in some kind of death cult. What I love about this movie is that Tucker and Dale are two nice and normal, if slightly slow, people and not crazy hillbillies. And that the final girl of every other slasher movie eventually clues herself in on this fact, making her smarter than most women in the type of horror movie this film is a parody of. This is basically the book form of I Am Legend. They have been trying for decades to make the movie properly. God, what an amazing book. It's so dark but so believable. There were several Twilight Zone involving stories where the twist was that the normal group are the aliens or where the humans are the odd ones. Not exactly the same but similar. There is a really great story told from the perspective of the thing. It doesn't understand why other living cellular bodies wouldn't want to be absorbed and become one. The Things by Peter Watts. If you like the video, hit that subscribe button for more content. I post every day and I'll see you next time with more stories.